He thrusts his fists against the posts and still
No, he
insists
doesn't. He claws
sees
the
the
post.
ghost. By the way, we forgot to turn off the fan.
Oh,
No.
No, take two.
Welcome to Bonehead. My name's Joe Lewis.
I'm going to skip because I can't come up with anything funny to say.
It never stopped you from talking before.
How did a lady end up on our couch? That's
Hi, I'm
James
Hailey.
Thomas. Well, yeah, you are Hailey, but how did are you? We've never seen you before. How do we know you're not Hailey?
She
who
said
else
she
wants
was.
to be here?
she burned you.
Snap.
Not
So-
me, though.
This is the first time a woman's ever been to the basement before.
Well, of her own free will.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Welcome to Joe's Scenic Crawl Space.
We have such lovely sights to show you. Anyway,
I
what
wish
we're-
you turned that fan on. Woo!
you're so great. You're amazing. I love everything you do.
Oh, stop it.
That was a really shitty fan joke. Anyway, well, I'm Joe
Oh,
Lewis. Welcome
I
to...
just got it. Yeah, that was crappy.
It's not as crappy as your face.
Are you going to introduce us at some
I
point?
swear to God, if everybody just shut the hell
Oh,
up.
is it weird being interrupted, Joe? Is it? Is
Not
it on?
really. No.
Okay, go ahead.
So,
My
was
point
really-
is,
welcome to
You
Bone.
know what's really good? Cherry Kool-Aid. That stuff is
I
fantastic.
prefer tropical punch.
You
We
son
should-
of a...
we
Point,
should just cut him
counterpoint.
off.
Oh, I
You know
like
what-
the
you know what-
strawberry generic one. Strawberries.
Oh, why
They
did you...
brought back Charcoalberry Finn. Anybody remember that?
What the hell is a
That's back?
Charcoalberry
It's
fin?
back. It's back now.
Oh, my God. I got to
You're
get some...
scaring the lady with the hair. Anyway,
That's no way to talk about James.
this is Joe Lewis, and welcome to Bonehead. So this is a part 2
Oh, damn, he got it out.
of our 2-part episode. Of actually may turn into 3 parts. We don't know.
It'll
There's a-
probably turn into 4 or 5.
Probably. This is the second part, and we're not going to do the third part for a while. But this is the second part of our Stephen King episode where we're
Hey,
going.
wow. Did you go, hey, wow?
I don't want to hear it from the guy that every time he tells a story.
Oh my
I
God.
can't help it. I'm so damn funny.
No more energy.
You're the only one laughing.
No. That's all that matters.
I thought
Anyway.
he suffered from prospector syndrome.
Yeah. Anyway, this is our second part of our Stephen King episode. We're going to try to get through a lot of this. We're joined today by our beautiful producer, Hailey. Say hi, Hailey, to everyone out there.
Hi, everyone.
You have a lot of fans on Twitter who want to see your
Two.
face.
Yes, 2.
2 is more than the
Hello.
other 3 boneheads.
Yes.
One of them.
Because
two.
nobody gives a damn about what I have to say.
That was supposed to probably be a
Yeah,
cry
yeah.
for help, but
Yeah,
No, I mean,
let's
let's-
just keep going with it.
Nobody likes
what I've
me.
learned is if you don't acknowledge people that
Nobody.
cry for help, they eventually go away.
Oh, really? Hey, James. Hey, James.
Or they have a mysterious accident tonight and they're never heard from again.
So why did you decide to come out from behind the camera for this episode?
Because we're talking Stephen King.
Well, yeah. So you like Stephen King?
Yes.
You like movies?
Yes.
You like movies about gladiators?
oh my
Yes,
God.
I have seen that many.
I have so many other airplane, but I won't do them. Airplane.
By the way, the movie Gladiators, not about gladiators. It's a boxing movie. Brian Dennehy.
Aren't they kind of
The
modern
dude
day
from Twin
gladiators?
Peaks. Cuba Gooding.
Oh.
Cuba Gooding wasn't on Twin Peaks.
He should have been.
I can't
Everybody's
argue.
on this season.
I haven't watched any of this season. So let's go ahead
Yeah,
and get
let's-
started. The one we left off with, and the one we're going to start with is the only movie directed by Stephen King,
Yeah.
Maximum Overdrive.
And you know, it was actually going to be in two of our previous episodes were crappy movies that we really love. It was actually going to be one of the ones I brought up, but since we decided we were going to do Stephen King afterwards, I didn't talk about
Yeah.
it because I love this movie.
Yeah, if you're able to see, if you could get your little monitor or little glasses out to see, we have list of our upcoming shows in the back if you can ever figure
we
it
didn't
out.
close that door. Oh well.
We didn't close the door to the back. Well, there was a guy in there earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
Should let him
is he
out.
still in there? No. He'll figure it out. So Maximum Overdrive.
Yes. The movie where Stephen King admits 100% that he was so high on cocaine that while he shot this. And if you watch the trailer for this movie, There is no disputing that.
Is it the one where he's doing it?
Where he's doing it.
Oh, it's great.
It is wonderful.
It's great. It really stop watching us right now on YouTube, the Stephen King trailer for Maximum
pause it.
Overdrive.
Come back to us, please.
Never come back. Run away now.
I imagine when he did it, he was trying to do something semi-Alfred Hitchcock, because that's how Alfred Hitchcock trailers used to be.
Yes,
it was
right.
just him talking.
Yeah.
Which sometimes you wish that style of trailer would come back with today's the way they're premiering today. I can't talk.
Well, that's okay.
But also too. So, go ahead and tell them the plot of the movie.
Maximum Overdrive is based on a short story called Trucks, and it's all about trucks coming to life, cars coming to life, and taking over, right? And they're basically at a gas station inside, caught up. It's already happened, and we catch up with them in the middle. It's probably not a great short story. Like Children of the Corn is not based on a great short story. The Mangler, which we'll get to later, is not based on a great short story. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. They may be fun for an afternoon, but they're not up there with some of the other stuff. Maximum Overdrive. That's the plot of Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah.
It does. I want to say, by the way, you mentioned the trailer. It also has one of my all-time favorite Stephen King cameos in it, though.
It does. It has the best Stephen King cameo.
There is no argument that this is the best Stephen King cameo
Absolutely.
in the Stephen King movie.
So I watch that if you've not seen it. It's an ATM and a machine calls him a name.
Yes.
Yes. It has a great soundtrack.
Yes.
AC/DC, right?
Mhm.
It's had an actually really good cast, a popular cast. Pat Hingle's in it, who was in a lot of stuff in the 60s, 50s, 70s. Character actor, went on to play.
He's also known as Commissioner Gordon in the first four Batman
First
movies.
4 Batman movies, yeah. Emilio Estevez.
Yes.
He would have been popular at the
The
time.
American Estevez.
The American Estevez.
What does that even mean?
It means what it needs to mean.
Most people, I don't even know if most people know that's Charlie Sheen's brother.
Right. And Martin Sheen's son. Brother!
What?
Dad! What the hell am
Martin
I saying?
Sheen's son.
I didn't know
Son.
that. No.
Yes.
You didn't know that?
Actually, no, I didn't.
Well, yeah.
I just
His
had a
name's not
Chinatown-
actually Sheen.
I just had
Martin
a
Sheen's
Chinatown
name's
moment.
Estevez. Yeah.
I had a Chinatown moment.
Well, it's Chinatown. Keep going.
No, you can tell watching this movie because the actors don't give some really great performances.
Well, it's got a pre-Simpsons.
Yearly.
Yearly Smith, who, by
Yearly.
the way, is ashamed of this movie.
She shouldn't be. I mean, she's terrible in it.
Yeah.
But she shouldn't be.
But
She's
she
not-
also was given this much to work with.
Right. Because Stephen King admitted that he spent most of the time with the vehicles and the various other appliances. Maniacal.
Yeah, I mean, the
the actual
headphones,
actors, yeah.
oh, God, so many people are killed by so many stupid things.
Yeah, and it was
The Coke machine.
Yeah, that was one of the that was one of the most amazing scenes in movie history.
Really?
Yes.
That's right up there with the soliloquy in the middle of The Third Man by Orson Welles.
I was just wondering what he determines amazing means.
That scene and the steamrolling scene. Which, by the way, was sorry, James, go ahead.
The scene that always sticks out in my mind is the drive-through scene. Humans here, humans here. I'm like, really? Really? Okay.
And that the soundtrack whenever somebody got killed, that just drilled into your ear holes. But
We're really selling it well as something that they should go watch.
oh, you should.
You should.
Anything for just the death scenes in the movie because they are phenomenal. And the steamrolling scene where the kid gets crushed by a steamroller was actually way worse. I wish they would have shot it, put it in the actual movie where Stephen King put a big bag of blood in there.
Uh-huh.
And they expected it to be a minor explosion, but they did it incorrectly and it splattered everywhere.
Yeah.
And then they had to take it out because it was too obscene.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen that.
Right.
Yeah. But Stephen King considers this his worst adaptation.
Yes, I'm sure it is. He's never directed again. Probably shouldn't direct.
And what I've read is if people ask him, hey, why haven't you ever directed a movie since Maximum Overdrive? His response is, have you seen Maximum Overdrive?
Well, and previously, before we filmed this one, you were talking about, I mean, there was even an accident on set, right? He got sued.
So the director of photography, there's a scene with a lawnmower, which you'll see if you actually watch the movie when the child actor is bicycling through the neighborhood. There was actually a malfunction with the lawnmower, and it hit a block that a camera was on, and the block was made out of wood, and it caused projectiles to shoot from the block of wood. and it actually hit the director of photography. He lost his right eye.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
Now, it's you lose your right eye, that's bad enough.
But
You're the
your-
director
your
of photography. That's even worse. And how did you lose it? What movie did you lose it on? Ghoulies 2. No, I'm joking. You lose it on Maximum Overdrive.
Right, and he actually sued for, I believe it was $18 million, and then they settled out of court, so there's no idea how much he actually got from that. But yeah, just the movie was a cluster from the beginning. And then, he also too with this movie, Emilio Estevez actually wasn't Stephen King's first choice.
You told me that. Yeah. Who was it?
Bruce Springsteen.
That'd have made an interesting film.
Yes, probably way better than. Now, granted, Emilio Estevez, fine actor. Sorta.
If you're a Mighty Ducks fan, I guess, or
Would
Young
that,
Guns.
would that have changed the soundtrack, do you think? Do you think, well, we got Bruce, we might as well go ahead and let him do a couple songs?
I don't know, but see, because really, Maximum Overdrive stands out because everybody remembers the truck with the Green Goblin,
Yes.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Do you think it's a Stephen King movie, and pretty much the soundtrack? Don't you think that's what people remember?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is if you had Springsteen, though, do you think there would have been some, well, we got a lot
I don't
of
think so, because Stephen King was a big fan of AC/DC, and he actually asked them to do the soundtrack. I don't think it would have mattered, but
It mattered one way or the
who
other.
knows? Maybe Springsteen's ego would have got out of him, and he would have had to done a ballad about trucks.
That reminds me, Eminem was supposed to be the star of Elysium
Yes,
instead of Matt Damon.
he
And
was
I
also
was,
supposed to be the star of Wanted.
and I watched that and I thought, oh, that, and then I was like, well, that's a stupid idea. And I watched the movie and I was like, no, Eminem would have been perfect for that.
Yeah.
And nothing against
But
Matt
I believe
Damon.
he'll
but for
turn
that
down
part.
any movie that doesn't take place in Detroit.
Yeah, he didn't want to do it because they shot it in South Africa. He wanted to just do it in Detroit.
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting off topic.
We're getting off topic. Sorry. Anything else to talk about at Maximum Overdrive?
Very different than the short story it's based on.
What's so different?
The entire short story, it's just them at the truck stop.
Right.
And it's just trucks that come to life, not every appliance.
Oh, yeah, with the electric knife.
Yeah,
It comes
I have
over
a question about
tracks.
this, and I haven't seen the film
I
recently.
forgot about it.
When they get to, spoiler if you haven't seen the film and want to see the original ending, whatever, mute me for 30 seconds. But when they get there to escape, it's paddle boats, right? Because it couldn't be a motorboat.
I think so. It's a sailboat.
Sailboat.
It's a sailboat,
Okay.
a schooner.
Because all I could think is if they got there and it was a motorboat, it's a big, oh man. Never
I
mind.
know.
But
Motorboating.
do you know what island they were going to in the end of the movie?
Somewhere off North Carolina, because they shot in North Carolina.
Haven.
Oh!
Yeah.
Well, for you
So-
Stephen King fans out there.
It all comes together.
Oh my God! If only there were 7 books that connected all those stories together. Anyway, so what's our next one up? Now this is probably the first classic Stephen King film, as far as an adaptation that people will say that's a classic film. Stand by Me.
Really, we're not Carrie, The Shining.
Oh, screw it. All right. But that's true to the source material.
Stephen King actually considers this his best granted, no, I don't know about there's been Shawshank, Green Mile. His opinion may have changed, but he considered this at the time his best adaptation to a movie.
Directed by Rob Reiner.
It's directed by Rob Reiner.
Originally, it was supposed to be directed by. Hold on, I've got it. Adrian Lynn.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but but shooting for 9.5 weeks fell behind, so it went to Rob Reiner.
Well, you know,
Sorry, I'm not sorry. I don't know,
No.
but not enough.
Here's the-
But Adrian Lamb went on to make Fatal Attraction.
Yeah.
Right? Did he also do Flashdance?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
Sorry.
Here's the other funny part about that, though, because it is considered a classic film. It's been talked about a lot. And Will Wheaton is one of the actors in it. And I heard a story, I believe it was actually Will Wheaton telling the story, and he told a story about when he went to school, he took a film course, and one of the films they talked about was Stand By Me. Either Will Wheaton or Jerry O'Connell, doesn't matter. And they were talking about, they kept using the class to talk about the symbolism of how these certain characters represent Christ at different things. And finally, whether it was Jerry O'Connell or Will Wheaton, they just stood up and went, I was there. Rob Reiner never once said Christ symbol at any point. And he said it literally changed the entire flow of the class. So people do read a lot into the film. But he assured everybody that whatever you read into it is great, not to take away from that, but that it is a film.
Well, Hailey, go ahead.
Rob Reiner considered his best film.
It's
He still
Castle
does?
Rock.
I believe he still does.
Yeah, he named his
Yeah.
production company Castle Rock. Even though I noticed rewatching it that it takes place in Oregon, not in Maine in
Yeah.
the movie.
It's Castle Rock, Oregon.
It's Castle Rock, Oregon, and even there's a couple of other towns that are thrown out in there that
We
are.
talk about Portland a lot.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, back to what we were saying. You rewatched it. I rewatched it. What'd you think?
It was actually the first time I'd seen it.
What?
It really was.
I forget that you're 12.
Close. Yeah, no. I liked it. I thought
I'm
it
sorry,
was
she's
close
14.
Sure. I thought it was really close. And like you said, it was pretty close to the actual novella that it's based on.
What's the changes? It's been so long.
There's hardly any.
I've never actually read the story because it's one of those things where I love the movie so much that I'm afraid if I read the source material, I might be disappointed.
Like the Dead Zone for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, a
That's
little
how you said
bit.
you felt about The Shining. You should
Exactly.
read The Shining.
I know I need to.
Yeah.
It's really good.
But after I saw that, we'll get the miniseries.
I didn't rewatch it as rehearsal for this or as to research it. I did rewatch the Family Guy version of it.
Oh my god.
To which is my question is that ending that they do there where they point out, wait a second, I could just come back later and still do this, so really not.
Oh, that is something that's different than because in the book they all die with the exception of the writer. They all die.
Really? They
Yeah.
all die at different times?
Yeah, they all die at different times.
I don't remember. It's been a long time.
And the way that River Phoenix's character dies is not how he dies in the book.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you that I did.
So Jerry O'Connell's character doesn't go on to marry Rebecca Romaine or nothing?
Nothing. Well, I do know that I rewatched it this week quite by accident because it was showing on a I can't remember, and then I caught it halfway, and then they showed it again immediately after. I think it was BBC America, and I rewatched it again. It was Wednesday night after we were doing the Scarefest thing, so I rewatched it, and it'd been a long time. I got into it again. And then Christy was asking me questions. Well, why are they doing? Because she caught it midway, and I said, well, you got to rewatch the beginning, and it's just a great coming of age story.
No, it's one of those movies that had
The
such an
story's
emotional.
called The Body, right?
The story's
It's
called The Body.
It's in different seasons.
Yeah, and it's in different seasons. She's right. But and she goes, well, I don't understand. And I said, well, they're guys, and they're just. I think it's just a really what it is to be that adolescent male.
Mm-hmm.
Even at that time, that was 30 years previous to when I grew up, but I could identify with it. What about you all?
No, I agree. Yeah.
And having those close of friends and going, well, why the hell would they want to go a body and then get their name in the newspaper? Who cares?
No.
Well, that's 39-year-old me saying that, but
Yeah. No, I agree. That movie really did have an emotional impact on me as a kid. So much so that, I lived it out in the country. We'd always go out in the woods and play, but I always had that movie playing in my head when I was actually playing in the woods. I'm like, am I going to find a dead body?
And then
or am I going to have to create my own?
Yes. And looking at my brother going, just one hit with a stick.
The problem with digging a hole to hide a body is when you already find the body in the hole you dug.
Oh God, yeah, dilemmas.
What about you as a lady?
What
Do
about-
you identify with their journey? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I would find a dead body and get my name in the paper, sure.
Yeah,
But
but
I'm
you're.
probably a little bit more.
Yeah, I was
morbid than
about to
most.
say
Yeah,
you
I mean, we're on
produce
this show, so
Bonehead.
yeah.
You've
I'm not sure
already
that's a fair
made some weird decisions. Okay,
For
anything else?
example, I'm by a puppet.
Yes, that's true.
Let's talk about some of the facts. It's Jerry
Right.
O'Connell's first movie.
Yeah.
Period. There was actually several people cast before Richard Dreyfuss.
Who was cast as that character?
Yeah, Michael McKean was actually the original.
What happened?
Just that I think there were some issues,
Scheduling?
scheduling
Well,
issues.
that makes sense because Rob Reiner was directing it.
David Dukes was actually the first actor cast for it,
Okay, David Dukes is famous for an episode of All in the Family.
Yeah.
FYI.
which these are all Rob Reiner's friends, by the way. So Michael McKean, Spinal Tap. Richard Dreyfuss was actually his friend since high school. For
High
God's sakes.
school. David Dukes was in a very famous episode of All in the Family where he takes advantage of Eat It.
Yeah.
It's Stifle.
Yeah.
Corey Haim was actually going to be another Corey movie. Corey Haim was actually originally scheduled going to be the part that River Phoenix went on to play, but he went and shot Lucas.
Oh,
Great choice.
One quick comment here. For you kids that may not know who the Coreys were, they were the Olsen twins before the Olsen twins.
Well, who are the Olsen twins? Because that's been a while since the Olsen twins.
Oh,
Who
the
are
Olsen twins
or today?
were
The sister of the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Yeah.
They and before that they were Bruce Campbell before Bruce Campbell.
You're just making shit
What
up.
the hell did you
Sure
just
am.
say?
You're just making- What's
He's
some
just
other
happy
ones?
he met Bruce Campbell.
Corey Feldman's in that,
Yeah.
which he been knocking it out of the park. He did Gremlins the year before,
Yeah.
Right?
Was this
It's 86.
Was it pre or post Lost Boys?
It'd be pre. 87's Lost
Okay.
Boys. It'd be Gremlins, Stand By Me, and Lost Boys.
And Goonies.
And Goonies is 86, right?
I
Or
would say,
85.
and however you feel about him as a talent or anything else, most people would say to get one of those films under your belt
Yeah.
would be a huge success.
Now he's a little weird. I'm
Yes.
just going to go ahead and say it. I've been in his
Sphere.
When he
little
decided to
sphere,
become a Michael Jackson impersonator.
and with his angels, and I don't consider myself the biggest feminist ever, but it's another level, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's another level. Anyway,
Oh, geez, excuse me.
Okay, we have.
No, The Body,
Yeah.
Ray Brower. His name's actually Kent Laurel. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
uh-huh.
Please forgive me if I'm not. He's actually a pretty famous stunt worker now.
Oh
Does
really?
stunt work. He did Titanic.
Your favorite
He's
movie?
gonna bring that to every.
He just did the stunts for Green Room.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I like the Green Room.
I
a
do
lot.
too. I liked it a lot.
Didn't I tell you to watch it?
Yes,
Didn't you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it a
Oh
lot.
my god, you should watch that other guy's movie, Blue Ruin.
Hey, I need to.
It's on Netflix.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Green Ruin, and
Green Room,
Blue Ruin, and Green Room. Son of a bitch! Stop naming your movies after colors.
So you've done research on this. How old was Kiefer Sutherland in this movie?
Oh, geez, I
Because
didn't
I swear he
look that
doesn't
up.
look 18.
He have to be 18
Well,
because
it
he
doesn't
was
help.
just in Flatliners a few years later and
Yeah.
Lost Boys.
Every time I see him, I'm like, hey, Jack Bauer.
Casey Siemasko's in it. Casey Siemasko as
Oh.
one of the brothers, the older ones. He would get later. He did a movie called 3 O'clock High. He's in the Back to the Future films and,
Yeah.
and back.
Let's
what
not
else?
forget John Cusack's in it.
John Cusack's in it as the brother who's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got a great cast.
Oh, huge cast.
Rob Reiner at this point in his life would just keep knocking them out of the park up until North. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, A Few Good Men and then North.
Earth.
I mean, it would be Princess Bride, The Body. What
You
else?
mean Stand By Me?
Stand By Me. Yeah.
We're going to talk about Misery, of course.
Misery, which is we'll get to in a minute. I mean, just kept killing him.
Yeah, just kept.
When Harry Met Sally, and then A Few Good Men, and then
North.
okay. So, anything else to add?
No, I'm good.
All right, we got a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
The next, The Running Man. I think it's a shitty movie.
Again, this falls into the crap movies that I really enjoyed as a kid. I still do. I watched it a few years ago. It still holds up as a cheesy flick.
I was going to say, I think if it was Roger Corman's The Running Man, we'd forgive it much more.
Probably.
And if it was made in the 70s.
Yeah.
Because I think that's I think it's interesting, but it's not.
Have you ever seen it?
I have not.
Have you read the book?
It's one
It's a
of the few ones I
Bachman
have
book. It was one of those. So, for you all, a lot of the Bachman books, all except for Thinner and not the one with Desperation,
The Regulators?
the Regulators, they were written pre-Carey. They were novels that he couldn't get sold that he
Right.
just published later on, and The
Mhm.
Running Man is one of them. And I actually had never read it till back this last September. I listened to it on the way back from Florida on the drive. I really enjoyed it, but it is a dark book. The lead character is very thin because it's one of those dystopian societies. It's run by cable, which we're almost there anyway. And these game shows, once again, reality television, we're almost there. He doesn't look anything like Schwarzenegger. He's nothing like that.
Yeah, but, I can dismiss that because you got to realize what you're watching in terms of the movie, not the book. I haven't read the book, but it's a cheesy action film. It's a typical Arnold Schwarzenegger 80s
I agree.
action movie.
It's
I
Total
agree.
Recall before Total Recall.
Is it?
Oh,
Is it?
kind of that
It's
same.
more like Commando.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Well, but I'm saying it's that same thing of society screwed. We don't know what's going on. That Schwarzenegger, that's one thing I will give him credit for, had a pretty good take on being able to do these science fiction films and making them action films.
Yes.
But that's kind of why it cues up that same mentality to me.
And Richard Dawson as the villain. I mean,
Richard Dawson is the good part, but it's nothing like that in the book.
No,
like there's
really?
several people. No,
Yeah, Richard
No,
Dawson.
it's
Have
combs.
you not seen the movie?
They use combs in the book.
it's not that. It's just the guy who's over the
Family
network.
Fusion.
Actually, the ending's different. He survived so long that the network wants to give him his own show, and they're going to pardon him for everything.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. It's a totally different flavor, and he flies the helicopter into the network to destroy them. it's
No.
like totally kind of.
Now, do we have in the book are the gimmicky fighters in the book or not?
I don't remember that kind of gimmicky, no, and I don't remember
The
all
American Gladiators of
somehow
Running Man.
Jesse Ventura is not in the book.
No, shocker.
But you know what? I just read it and I can't remember. I remember the ending.
I always like the big fat guy with the light bulbs all over it.
Yeah, it's not that gimmicky. And a lot of people would rip this idea off like
tons,
many times.
But of course, that was done for sort of the Warriors.
Yeah, it's true.
Along the same lines.
All right, I don't have a lot to add to the Running Man. It's not the world's greatest.
It's not.
All right,
and it's not a true.
And we got to get on to Pet Sematary. Okay, this was one of the big, huge box office successes, right?
Right.
It was meant to originally be directed by.
Go ahead, Joe.
George Romero.
George Romero, yes.
George Romero. Right.
Nakatomi.
Never forget. So George Romero was meant to direct this. It's from Laurel, which is a company owned with Richard Rubenstein. He was actually held over. Was it The Dark Half or Monkey Shines?
Pretty sure it was Monkey Shines.
I'm pretty sure it was too. Monkey Shines was both of those movies were made by Orion. They were going bankrupt. He didn't know. Long story.
Which Monkey Shines is a Stephen King as well, right?
No.
Nope. Okay, sorry.
Anyway, so he was held over. They wouldn't let him off his contract, and they decided to get another director.
Right.
I can't remember. Mary Lambert.
Right.
Who's a talented lady. She does do some great visuals in that movie.
Yes.
Pet Sematary is one of my favorite Stephen King books.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about dealing with death to me and how you either have the ability, and we're all parents, all except for Hailey. I can't imagine going through that, but the people of the complete lack of ability to deal with loss.
Right.
Right?
Yep, completely agree.
Completely agree. And that's what it's about. It's not really about demons and all these things. It's about people and their inability to deal with loss. The problem is you have that script was written by Stephen King. Competent director. I will give her the
It's
credit.
actually the first screenplay that King adapted.
Yes. Another cameo. How shot in Maine. They actually shot it in Maine. Got Fred Gwynn as the neighbor next door, who, if you look at it in one way, is actually the guilty party if you never showed him where the pet cemetery was.
Completely agree.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's even more like that in the book. That being said, have all this pathos, and who did they cast as the lead character?
Dale Midkiff.
Who couldn't act his way out of a paper sack. Who did they cast as the mom?
Denise Crosby.
Not as bad as Dale Midkiff, but damn near close. Denise Crosby, for you Trekkies, is?
Tasha Yar.
Tasha Yar. She lasted how long on?
Not long. And matter of fact,
Not even the full first season.
No, well, one of the things that she said...
They brought her back later.
If you watch Panic on the Bridge, a great documentary about certain... But she has a line when she actually says she begged them just to make a cast of her legs. Because so often when she was on set, she would just be standing there and all you would see was basically...
Yeah.
Upper leg down because it was focused on Patrick Stewart. And the reason she eventually left was she said there was no character development for her. And then when she left, they promoted Worf to being chief of security. And then he had great development as a character.
And the show bloomed up a little bit more, right?
Yeah. And it became
not the best career decision.
No.
Yeah.
No, but we talk about Dale Midkiff. Who was originally scheduled to play that character?
Who?
Bruce Campbell.
Oh, really? What happened?
There's no indication as to how he did not end up making that movie. We met Bruce Campbell briefly this
2
week.
days ago.
2 days ago.
Yeah.
And if I was thinking, I would have asked that question of what happened with Pet Sematary, because in my research there was never indication as to why he didn't keep with that role, and it eventually went to Dale Midkiff.
It's.
But see, and all respect to Bruce Campbell, who I love, but I don't see that being a Bruce
It wouldn't have
Campbell
worked
role.
either. That wouldn't have worked. I agree with you. They needed an actual actor who could show the pain of loss. I feel like you haven't got a chance
That's
to talk.
okay. Go ahead.
Well, there was some scenes where I thought he pulled off the sorrow very well.
Like the one screaming scene that's in, but it's also the way it's shot, the fact that it's kind of in slow motion, and then it cuts to all the happy things that you have with a child, like birth and all the other stuff.
Yeah. But let's talk, where it feels like we're bashing the movie.
No, we like the movie.
I love this movie. It's actually one of the movies, I don't know how you feel, but it creeped me out. Like, I was literally shaken when I was a kid watching this movie. Because it came out in 1990, so I was 10 years old. And there's only been 2 movies that ever did that to me prior. Nightmare on Elm Street, and God, was Shocker pre or
It's pre.
It's
pre.
Shocker.
I think that came out in '89.
It's a bad movie. If you ever
Wes
look it up.
Craven.
Wes Craven.
Never forget.
But man, there's one scene in that movie that still gives me nightmares. But anyway, Pet Sematary. Did you like it?
I have not seen it.
Oh, have you read the
I
book?
haven't seen the movie, but I know the story.
You all are missing out on one of the things that I love about it. The
What?
Ramones.
Oh, and he's right. He's right. We haven't talked about the It's actually my favorite Ramones song.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a movie that, as you said, all about pathos, all about dealing with death and life and blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, yep, boys, we got to roll these credits. Cue up the Ramones.
I don't want to be buried in a pet cemetery.
I refuse to sing.
I don't want to live my life again. Oh, no.
And if you see the video, it's even better.
I love the song.
I do too.
It's my favorite Ramones song.
I think that's one of the things, though, that you're talking about that, and you're talking about how this came together, and you got to mention the Ramones. The other reason I like the film is because my son used to look exactly like Gage. So
No, that's a little creepy because Gage gets ran over by a truck.
No, but I'm
kills with a scalpel.
Yeah, well, no, and that's why.
Daddy, I'm going to play with you.
That's what I was about to say. When he would come out of his room and say, "Daddy, can we play?" It was always like, "Yeah, this could be the beginning of the end, but sure, let's."
Silas doesn't look a little like Gage.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, Stephen King actually considers this his scariest story. Pet Sematary.
Well, I think so because I think it deals with the scariest thing most people could ever deal with, the loss of a child.
Yes.
Well, and it's
Right?
It's again, it's the reason that
Because it's unnatural.
well, and it's there's that Simpsons line where Grandpa Simpson says, "I hope that I get to outlive all my children."
Yeah, that's a joke, but it is. It's one of those unnatural things because when you lose your parents, well, you're supposed to eventually. I mean, it sucks and it's not cool, but
that's life.
that's life. Losing a child is unnatural.
Right.
Well, and I think the other part about it is, and we've talked about this in other ways, but your house is haunted, leave your house.
Yeah.
Everything else, but and it's the same reason why I said Insidious works on me is my kid's possessed. I can't be like, well, gee,
You can drop him off at the orphanage.
yeah.
There was little Reagan and all the other possessed children.
Now his head spins a full 360. That was a bonus feature. That's a gift from me to you. But I think that's the other thing about it is you mess with kids. It does. It has a different effect. I think that's why. And as we've said before, Stephen King just writes characters well.
He just does. He's to me, he writes the best three-dimensional characters of any living author. I know. And what'd you say?
He doesn't provide a lot of physical description a lot of the times. You
No.
don't need it.
No, you don't need it. And that's always a misnomer when people go, well, he describes so much. Not really. He describes a lot of emotions and works you through it.
And I was going to say, and that's the flip side. And again, I'll get an eye roll here, but I think that's the difference between Stephen King and people always talk about Dean Koontz.
Do they? Or is it just you?
He's a New York Times bestselling author. But Dean Koontz, if you read some of Dean Koontz...
So is Danielle Faye Dunaway Steele.
None of those were... I mean, those were names. But, don't let him go. He's having a senior moment.
That's true. I am the oldest one here.
But what I was going to say is, if you read some of his, he describes the scene completely.
Yes.
And that's the big difference between them as authors, and I think that's why Stephen King is more successful. No offense, Dean Koontz, you got me beat. But he sets up scenes, and Stephen King sets up characters.
We got to get through the 90s. Anything else to add about Pet Sematary?
No, other than it's a really scary movie.
It is a scary movie. You should watch it.
Visuals
Even the
get to
scene,
you.
just for the scene. Granted, there's tons, but just for the scene of where Denise Crosby is talking about her sister.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
that scene! I still to this
or
day.
the fight at the funeral and Gage's bodies because he doesn't get along with his.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's just a lot. If they, I know I keep harping on this, but Dale Medcalf.
Yeah, that's probably.
Oh.
Yeah, just the fact that, but that scene.
Then we blew it, man.
That
we just
scene,
blew it.
That scene with the sister, I still can't watch it.
Yeah.
I'm 37 years old and I can't watch it.
You look older.
I know. I feel older.
That's a joke.
My bones creak.
All right. Anything else, Hailey?
No.
Graveyard Shift. Who's seen it? Have you ever seen it?
No.
Seen it.
Yes, I have, but it's...
All right, it's a short story that was written before he was a famous author, sold to one of those many short stories that he would sell to try to keep clothes on their back when he and Tabby were young and married, that Collider, or he would sell them to Playboy, Penthouse. By the way, FYI, for you people, it's like, why would you... These are one of the few places you could actually get short stories was Playboy and some of these men's
It's a
magazines.
dying art.
And it's still one of the few places. I will defend Playboy to the day I die that will still do that.
Yeah.
They will still publish short fiction because it's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Now we have the blogosphere.
Yeah, that's it. And people just talk about their flipping feelings. Anyway, Graveyard Shift's a terrible movie.
Oh man, but I like it so.
I like it too. I like it. I actually maybe like it better than the short story, even though the short story. And I think the reason we like it is probably the same reason. Brad Dourif plays an exterminator.
Yeah, you can't.
Makes no sense. Does nothing with the plot. Ends up getting killed for no good reason.
The second best exterminator after John Goodman.
Yeah, right. Oh my God, that's arachnophobia? Yeah. He gets killed in the dumbest way. Then
Yes.
he cuts to the foreman for no good reason.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Shot up like this. Did
And
he make it happen? Who
Yeah.
knows?
And the villain at the end, the actual creature,
The bat creature
Sure.
rat thing.
the bat rat thing that there's
Yeah.
no explanation for.
No.
Just appears.
No, they work, and this is based on his experience of working in the summers at a textile plant that
Yeah.
had rats, and then one weekend he had the opportunity they would go downstairs and try to clean out the basement, but there were rats, and they had to blow, and he was like, well, how did it go? And then he just made up a bullshit story about what he thought would have happened, and it's fun.
Yes, it's fun. That's all
If
it
you
is.
can catch it-
I remember the opening. That's about all I remember.
Congratulations.
If you can catch it on AMC, no, don't. See if you can actually go out and find an unedited.
Yeah.
Just simply because Brad Dourif has some really good lines.
Yeah.
But it's a terrible movie. Anything to add?
No, it's just I really enjoyed it.
We're gonna get to one I've seen pretty soon.
It.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
that's why I'm
next.
here.
It's next. The remake. Well, it's not really a remake. I don't know how you call it because the miniseries, it's not based on the miniseries. It's based on the book. So the new movie's coming out, and it's only going to deal with the first half or the first of the kids of the book.
And it's getting a lot of positive feed right now.
And-
There's tons of reviews in it. They're nothing but great.
And the 4 boneheads here will probably see it. What? At
If
least that weekend.
Oh, yeah.
On the road.
We'll
Right.
figure it out.
Without
Yes.
Chad.
Without Chad.
Aw.
We'll text
We
you
love
pictures
you.
going, oh, here's me eating Hailey's popcorn. Here's me eating more Hailey's popcorn.
Look, it's Chad living that Kerouac lifestyle.
Almost as bad as you all going to see Star Wars without me.
Oh.
That's actually worse than Star Wars because it actually has. It's my Star Wars.
You piss on Star Wars. It's my Star Why can't Star Wars be Star Wars? It's been a while since we did that.
Well,
joke.
no, let's talk. No,
It's a Citizen
It-
Kane.
we'll bring up my Star Wars story at a later date.
Wait,
It-
there's actually a story here? Oh,
Yeah,
I
no,
wanna
there's a
hear
story.
that.
I'll
Oh
tell you
my
after the show,
God.
and then we'll save it for the viewers later on.
It is a good book, but it also.
This was my introduction to Stephen King, so
It
don't
is-
you badmouth it.
I'm not.
Okay.
But it's hard to explain.
Oh God, yeah, it's all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And so it's one of those stories that I think you could do over and over for the next 100 years.
Yes.
For each generation. Like this new one takes place in the 80s. Makes sense. In the book, it's the 50s?
50s.
It takes place in the 50s. Makes complete sense, especially with Stranger Things going on right now. It makes complete sense with the age of where everybody's at, of
Yes.
us having money and going to spend it. Yes, set it in
Yeah.
the 80s. Love that idea. It is a story that I think you could just keep telling.
Yes.
And there's something inherently creepy about clowns that he was one of the first people to ever tap into.
Agree.
I hate clowns. I'm not scared of clowns. I think clowns are creepy. Here's the reason why. Do you mind, real quick?
Please.
I'm going to give you a grown man who wears makeup, dresses up, and wants to come over and play with your kids. And I'm going to call him a clown, and you're going to be completely okay with it. Don't get
And
me
you're gonna
started
pay
about
him.
it. And I'm going to pay him. I'm going to pay a grown man to dress up in makeup and come over and entertain your children. If I pitched it to you that way, would you let it happen? Well, you would, but would you let it happen?
You forget one other thing.
What?
He's going to take phallic-like objects and turn them into animals.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, look, this giant inflatable penis is now a colon.
A colon?
I
What the?
Giraffe?
You could have said giraffe. You could have said puppy dog.
I could have said your mom, but I didn't do any
I
of
just
those
said
said
that would take a lot of
colon.
balloons.
Hmm?
Take a lot of balloons.
things.
For
And how can you turn a balloon into a colon? You could have even said large intestine. That might have been fun.
Why not the small
How
intestine?
about a semicolon?
Oh! Anyway, back to what we were saying.
Still even impossible.
Clowns. Clowns are weird.
Clowns are weird.
I-
And then they got the best person ever to play the scariest clown ever.
Tim Curry.
Curry.
That's perfect casting.
The only good role the man's ever done.
No.
Yeah, he was never
No,
in.
no.
Slap the sass out your
Obviously,
mouth.
you've never seen the McHale's Navy.
Or The Shadow.
Oh God.
Or Home Alone 2. Okay, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
And by the way, I am joking. I did this just to make our friend James twitch. I love Tim Curry. Anything to
He
make
does
I'm
it.
gonna kill you before James.
I'd say he doesn't love him. Blow up his Twitter. Send him nothing
I
but pictures
love-
of him
I
from
love-
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I love Tim Curry. I actually like McHale's Navy because of Bruce Campbell, French Stewart, and Tim Curry.
All right.
And
So
Tim Curry's number one.
the miniseries was directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. Tommy Lee Wallace actually grew up with John Carpenter. Oddly enough.
Yes.
They went later on to USC, and he became a director in his own right. He directed Halloween 3, which is actually one I consider maybe one of the best Halloween sequels. And I know someone out there is like, I don't give a shit. I don't care about your Michael Myers opinion. They were trying to do
No.
something different. It's a flawed movie, I'll give you that.
But there's
it's
something
so
to
much
it.
more interesting than
Yeah, it's
Halloween
interesting.
2.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, Halloween 3, I have the poster for it. It's signed by Tommy Lee Wallace, Tommy Atkins. I'm a fan. So, Tommy Lee Wallace went on to make this movie. What did I say? If you ever get a chance to meet him, he's a really nice guy.
Yes.
So, it's a good miniseries. The first part's better than the second part because there's 7 kids and TV movies are set up in 7 acts. This is what it was explained to me. So, it works so well for that. I don't have any crap. I know people are like, well, it's date. I don't give a damn.
It's not dated.
I was gonna say,
I don't care. I was watching it the other day. I still got into it. I enjoyed it.
You know,
Even the Blu-ray's not bad. It holds
it's
up.
Does it really?
Yeah.
and this is the first Stephen King book I actually read.
Yeah.
And I
mine
read
was-
it because of the miniseries, and then that led to my fascination, my lifelong fascination with Stephen King. But go ahead.
Okay.
No, I was gonna say, the whole reason I watched this movie as a kid was because it had John Ritter and Harry Anderson, and I loved Night
Night
Court.
Court.
Night Court was my favorite sitcom as a child, and I'm like, oh God, Harry Anderson's in a movie. I've got to watch it. And I watch it, and I'm like, oh God, I'm not gonna sleep for a week.
In all fairness, what's better than Night Court now?
There isn't.
You said
anything.
as a child. I wish I owned most. I mean, Night Court and Wings.
so good.
Yeah. Anyway,
Anyway,
you haven't got to talk, and I know you love it.
yeah, please.
Oh no, I don't think you. Tim Curry, awesome. Yes.
Well, what about the book? Have you read the book?
Yes.
It's. Go ahead. Explain
There's a lot of
it.
things that are in that book that you can't do on TV.
Like the sex scene.
Yes.
Are we talking about with the bully?
That's not even going to be in the new
No,
movie.
it's not even going to be
Or
in
are
the
we
new
talking
movie.
about? Oh, we talking about the girl.
That scene.
The girl,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
out of the
shit.
7,
It's
the
not gonna
losers,
be-
there is a lady, and it's not a rape scene at all,
No.
anything like that. She just has sex with all 6 of them.
And in very graphic detail as well.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
In typical Stephen
It's
King
And
not
it's
gonna
fashion.
because they love each other.
Right.
It's out of love. But how are you going to show underage sex? You just can't.
There's
And they're not going to be able to do that bully scene in the movie either, by the way.
No.
Well, I was going to say, and this is one thing I will add to this conversation. I don't know if anybody else knows this, but that, not the book, the miniseries itself was adapted internationally in India called Woe or Wah. I don't know the exact pronunciation. W-O-H.
What?
Yeah, that. Thanks, Chad. Here's the interesting part about that, and this is why this is really interesting. It shows how Stephen King can be adapted. I've been waiting for it, so I bring this up. They made it into a TV series that lasted 52 episodes. You can watch them online. They're not in English, and they're not subtitled. But if you watch it, it's very interesting because when they adapt it to culture, the scene of Georgie and we all float down here, they don't have. They were trying to adapt it culturally, and there's not storm sewers. There's not.
Uh-huh.
So it's a swimming pool, and he's watching outside. And if you see
They
it,
have swimming pools in
it's
India?
very well. The wealthier people do, yes. And so he's a part of a wealthy family, and you just see it's a creepy scene, even not in the same language. He slowly rises up out of the water with balloons, so the balloons are dripping water
Oh,
down.
that's cool.
And he gets closer, the clown disappears, and then the clown, of course, pops right back up right next to him, pulls him in, and his older brother sees him from the upstairs window. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is you can almost watch that, even though it's 52 episodes. I mean, we're talking clear 48 hours of your schedule, but it is very interesting. It's hour-long episodes.
Oh, okay.
Take out commercials.
He's on a roll.
It is
German
gonna be in about
bombed
48
Pearl Harbor.
minutes.
Let him go.
48 minutes after commercials are out.
We totally get it.
Anyway, if you
Keep going,
watch,
Muffin.
it's what's really interesting about it is the director said, "I did not adapt Stephen King. I adapted the American miniseries
Miniseries, okay.
and made it culturally relevant to
Oh,
India.
I think my biggest issue with the miniseries is the ending.
Yeah, but that's probably the issue I have with the book.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be anything, right, Hailey?
Yeah.
It has been here since the primordial ooze, correct? Am I saying that correctly? Right?
so.
He landed here. You want to talk about the turtle and all that? You do a better
we have
job.
Time for that?
Well, can you give a quick?
Okay, if you read the Dark Tower series, you find out that all of his works are connected, and one of the things that connects them is the idea that the turtle supports one of the beams that holds up the universe. And so throughout it, you'll hear occasional references where people are like, I don't know why I'm thinking about a turtle, I'm not sure where that thought came from.
You're
and
right.
he doesn't address it again in the book. You have to read the Dark Tower
Well,
to see all these
And
connections.
there's a little blurb where I think Pennywise actually said, "You're just something the turtle spouted out."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And there's some mythos that's actually built in mythos, right, James? Back me up on this. That that there's always this history about the fact that that the world's built on a giant turtle shell.
Well, I was going to say, Terry Pratchett messes with that theory in Discworld. I mean, there's a lot of authors that are extremely popular. Maybe the secret to being a successful science fiction, horror, etc. author is you need to play with turtle mythology.
I'm glad he added mythology at the end of that.
Yeah.
Because you need to play with turtles. Just get a bunch of them together, see what happens.
We don't need to talk about your sex life. Can we talk about Stephen King?
What is turtle sex called?
A good time.
Hashtag bonehead turtle sex. Go ahead.
Shell shock.
Shell shock.
Hashtag new meaning for turtle wax. Anyway,
Wax on, wax off.
the point
I
being,
waxed
though,
off this turtle.
but yeah, no, Chad is absolutely right about that. I mean, there's a lot of shared mythology
Yeah.
around. It's usually a turtle, but in some cultures, we're part of a larger being.
But it's the damnedest hardest thing, right? So, and at the end, he is a spider. He does eat and come back, but he's not really a spider. It's right.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
I don't know. I'll be interested if
If they do the second,
Well, let's face it. This movie's going to blow up. It's going to be huge.
we'll
It
get
better
another
be.
one.
It better be. We're going to get another one. I would like to see how they end it.
I don't know. They've got to change it.
Yeah.
Honestly, in my opinion, because it's hard to
They
do
better
that.
consult not McGarris.
Tommy Lee Wallace,
No.
Stephen King,
Shawshank, Green Mile,
Frank Darabont.
Frank Darabont,
Yeah.
the king of the alternate King ending.
That's true. I just
See
don't.
what you did there? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know how they get there. And there's certain scenes too. I mean, Mike is attacked by giant bees.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite work visually. You're
Yeah.
reading it, you'll build something in your mind that doesn't quite work. But Pennywise is just a striking figure.
Yeah, he's
that's-
probably
probably one of the best in terms of cinema, one of the best villains in cinema history.
And he just enjoys being the clown. He's not the clown, he just enjoys being the clown. And it's one of those things that I just think you could tell that story different ways for the next 100 years and it just be culturally relevant.
I'd say, and that's why I brought up Woe or Wah or whatever, because again,
what?
you can adapt.
Never gets old for
I
me.
think you can adapt that type
I'm
of
sure
story.
it gets old for some of us.
I think you can adapt that type of story, that story of something
Yeah.
attacking people, especially children and all that. So anyway.
All right,
So do we keep going?
can we do one more? Do we have
I
time
think
for
so.
one
Let's
more?
do one more.
Misery. Misery is the first one I ever read. I read it in 7th grade, which probably says a lot about me.
That's actually when I read my first Stephen King book as
Oh
well.
my God, Eagle River.
Boom!
Rock Ridge.
So Misery is honestly the movie's pretty damn faithful. They only change one big thing.
Which is... Oh, are we allowed to spoilers?
I'm going to spoil it. If you haven't seen Kathy Bates' Academy Award-winning performance,
Oh yeah.
Rob Reiner directed it once again. A great adaptation. If you haven't seen it, then I'm so sorry. But in this movie, she
Hobbles him.
with a sledgehammer. In the book, she cuts off his foot and uses a blowtorch to cauterize the wound.
Mm-hmm.
When I was reading that, everybody's like, have you gotten to that scene yet? And I'm like, what scene? They're like, there's this scene in the movie. I'm like, oh, no.
No, in
Check
the
out the
book. In the book. I don't know that would have been... I mean, her breaking his ankles is pretty rough.
I mean, visually.
Visually, it's probably just as bad, if not worse, than
I would
her.
say it's worse. It's worse because it's the cut. I think about it visually. You cut, bam, it's done.
Yeah.
Then you have the searing, whatever else. But her pulling back to swing.
Swing.
Oh,
And
and she had to
that
do that
visual-
to cut, too?
Well, but I mean,
But
there's
she has to
something
do it
about
twice.
the visual image of her, because that's what I remember from the film. If you asked me to take one snapshot from that film and say, sell this to somebody using only one picture, her with the back
Yeah.
is just no. I'm done.
Annie, it's Paul Sheldon, right? And
Yeah.
Annie
Wilkes.
Annie Wilkes. I almost said Annie Oakes. Annie Wilkes. And I gotta say, Hailey, whew, I think it's probably visually better that she hobbles him instead of cutting off his foot.
Oh, probably.
Now, can I give a criticism about this movie?
No.
And I'm sure everybody in this round table is going to
Rip
hate
you.
me for it. Because I want to say I love this movie. However, did anybody else have a problem with James Caan?
Well, that leads me to my point.
Yeah, because
They were forever. No one would take the role.
yeah.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't know this.
Rob Reiner went to a ton of actors. James Caan was the final person who would take the role because nobody wanted to be in that bed because that wasn't the stars he went to. That's not the starring role.
Oh.
Kathy Bates has the starring role. He's hobbled there, and there's not much. And for the most part, he gets the crap beat out of him, and he lays there and is sick and whines. Nobody wanted to do it.
And that's why James Caan wanted it, because he'd never played the reactionary role.
Right.
And I feel like he failed miserably.
Well,
I don't agree with
that.
that.
The same thing though, and I mean that's a critique of why a lot of actors have missed out on some great scripts.
Yeah.
The one that comes to mind more recently is Django.
Oh.
Because
that's true.
Will Smith. Quentin Tarantino wanted to work with Will Smith. Will Smith read the script and said, "Who's the actual star?" Christoph Waltz. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, see,
Yeah,
that's not what I read about it. But
Well, something Will Smith has to be he actually referred to himself in the third person.
yeah.
What was it? Will Smith has to.
He has to be the hero. Is that what it was?
Yeah,
He has
it's
to be
something
the
along
hero.
those lines.
He thought it was too violent, and he wanted to be the hero. He didn't want to blow everybody up or something like that.
I think it's because Christoph Waltz is the one that actually shoots Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And that was a big
And
part
then
of
Will
it.
Smith,
So he
I have to be the one that shoots the bad guy.
I think he also wanted to clean up the language.
Oh, really?
That's another. I read that the other day.
But I've heard he went back and said that was a mistake.
yeah.
But I mean, again, it's and Jamie Foxx. I mean,
Jamie Foxx is
nails it.
great in
I'll
it.
be honest with
nails
you. I thought you were going to bring up Sean Connery.
No, well, Sean Connery. We've talked about that.
I know you
before.
think he's a hack and you don't want to bring him up.
No, I love Sean Connery. If you ever call him a hack again, even implying I've said that, I'll kill you whole
Three?
thing.
Let me just move. Go ahead.
Three people James Thomas cannot stand, and we never hear the end of it. Sean Connery,
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage, and Vincent Price.
Oh my God, he hates Vincent
He hates
Price.
Vincent Price.
Hates
You left
Vincent
off.
Price.
You left off Christopher Walken.
And Christine.
Christina Ricci.
No, it's Christina Ricci.
Yeah, there you go.
Those are all lies. Those are all people that
Thanks,
I love.
Christina Ricci is
He
hideous.
thinks she's hideous, and she's
Those
a
are all people
dog,
that I,
just a dog.
This
I
shit-
think are immensely talented. By the way, speaking of which,
Watch this
we'll
Black
never have
Snake.
one that we talk about this, but if you've ever seen Christina Ricci in Opposite of Sex, it's a great film. Thank you.
How about just sex?
Back to Misery.
Anything to add to Misery?
One of my favorite scenes from the book got cut from the movie, and it was Kathy Bates' favorite scene too, where a police officer, I think it's a police officer, comes to the door to see what's going on, and her character kills him with a lawnmower. Just runs him down, chops up the body.
I don't remember that, but it's been a long time since I read
This is too campy, and she was like, but it's the best scene. I'm like, no, this is just too
What
campy.
is it with Steve swinging lawnmowers?
They
know.
make fun of that
Yeah.
actually in the Family Guy episode where they make fun of it because Joe walks through the door and rings the thing, and she shoots him, and he says, "I'm paralyzed for life now, thanks." And he goes, "No, you're not," and kills him. And it was an homage to that scene getting cut from everything else.
I don't remember that. It's been a long time since I've read it. Like I said, since 7th grade, so that's almost 30 years. Is 30 years? I don't do math very well.
You would have been about 12. In the
So it would have been
7th grade. You started
27
kindergarten at
years.
5. Yeah.
27 years. That's a long time.
Speaking of misery,
Yeah, speaking of misery in a long time, are we up on time?
It's a good question.
And we have just made it not even halfway.
Either.
We're going to be doing more of these, folks. We're going to
Can't
come back to them.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say we can't guarantee that they're gonna be straight.
They're not.
because we've got special guests coming in. I don't want to say too much, but I think our next episode
Ken Boggle.
Kim Bog, yeah,
will be Ken Boggle. If you don't know who Ken Boggle is, use your internets.
which we'll be discussing. We'll be discussing, tarot cards.
Tarot cards,
Ouija.
Scarefest, how that plays. Tarot cards and how they play in movies.
Yeah.
What's accurate and inaccurate. Our first special guest, other than the beautiful Hailey.
You told me I didn't get to chat,
No,
that I couldn't be a guest.
you really
No.
don't. You're
Yeah.
not really a
You're
guest.
already a
You're just
bonehead, sorry.
bonehead, yeah.
You're one of us.
Oh, and really quick, we talked about it in the last episode, but we didn't know about it till this morning. These are always 2 weeks or week and a half behind. We just lost Toby Hooper. Toby Hooper directed the first miniseries, Salem's Lot, of a Stephen King adaptation, which I actually still love, and I think it still holds up. I bought it on Blu-ray just when it came out last year. Again, just because I love it so much. Tobe Hooper also gave us the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and actually one of the only 3 good canon films when we get to our canon episode later.
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, which actually I think is his second best film. We've talked about the Poltergeist controversy a little bit before. We're not going to get into that. So, Tobe Hooper, thanks for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You redefined a genre.
Yeah, I was going to say, you literally, if you like slasher films, if you like anything else, you have to look. And the what was in that, even the trailer for that.
Yeah.
John Larroquette, I believe,
John
narrated.
Larroquette's the voice.
And it still sticks. No matter how you feel about him, no matter what you think about the Poltergeist stuff, definitely somebody that added a very distinct voice back
to cinema.
in the horror.
Ridley Scott said right before he did Alien, because he wasn't into horror films, he kept watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre because he said to him he said it's formidable. It's probably the best horror film. I don't know that I agree with that, but it
was new. It
damn
was
sure
shocking.
it damn sure redefined everything.
And I think as you watch that movie, and we've talked about this before, you feel dirty.
You just
like there's something. It's the only one worse than that is Last House on the Left.
Last House on the Left.
I mean, that's,
which is another hard to watch Wes
Yes.
Craven film. Not because it's a bad movie, just because
you can't watch those films though without having a visceral. Something comes out of you.
So if you want to know anything about Tobe Hooper, you've obviously checked out those other things. Check out Life Force, which is batshit crazy. Anyway, thank you so much. This is not to get off on a down note, but check out Tobe Hooper's work. I'm Joe Lewis.
Again, nothing funny
Still
to
don't
say.
have a name. Hi, Hailey. Or bye. I guess we're leaving. Let's do another one.
James Thomas.
And Spot. Thank you so much. Toodles. Tune in next week for Ken Boggle. It's going to be hilarious. I don't have anything else to add.
And it dies. Anybody else watch the Son of Sam interview?
What?
Are we ready?
They're rolling.
You want to talk about Son of Sam when we're done with the show?
Sure.
All right.
I'll talk about Dad.
What?
Nothing.